Kristian, we're live. Kristian, say hello to everyone, please.
Hello, everybody around the world. For those that are early raisers, for those that are late bombers, yes, we're here. We're in a
excellent. Well done, Kristian. So we're live with Dr. Kristian Moeller, Managing Director of GlobalGAP, putting food safety and sustainability on the map. So, Kristian, before we get going, I love the fact that your business is called GlobalGAP, and our little initiative, Beanstalk Global, was called Beanstalk Global, because we're live to a global audience. And on my screen, just behind my camera, I can see that now that we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, we've already got people dialed in from the United States, South America. We've got people, people are up in, working in, watching us in Cape Town, Joburg, and Europe is all just coming online. And Kristian, you won't believe this. Some people are awake in Australia who've just hopped in, and obviously also in London. So everyone, it's great to have you with us today with Kristian. We're really keen to get Kristian on board because we all have very positive views about GlobalGAP and the business that it is. But I wanted to do a deep dive investigation with Kristian so we could find out more about GlobalGAP, how it was formed, where it is today, where it's going to be in the future, and how it's going to be of benefit to us all. And Kristian, just before we kick off, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Katya and Lydia Stratton from the UK end, and Katya from Germany for setting this all up. If it wasn't for the two of them, we wouldn't be here today. So Kristian, I've got on my auto cue, I've got a whole ream of stuff about GlobalGAP, but I tell you what, you tell us, you're the master, you're the MC. Tell us all about GlobalGAP, please.
Yeah, well, GlobalGAP is basically a brand. It's developed by a FoodPLUS company, which is in the background. But GlobalGAP, consider it as a global good agricultural practices. It all starts off, how can we translate the consumer requirements into good agricultural practice for farmers, right? I'm a farmer's son. I want to know what the consumers around the world want for international trade for my business. So we designed this as a standard, so for responsible farming with protecting environment and social issues.
Okay, and the scope of GlobalGAP, are we just parochial around Europe? Are we just in the UK? Are we global? Hence the name. What's the reach of GlobalGAP, please?
Well, there is a seed in the UK. The UK retailers were the first ones to really get started. And I met them in Spain when it comes south of Spain, Almeria, when they had joined issues with sustainability at that time and safety. Now we are in more than 130 countries with more than 200 and more than 200,000 farms that are certified under the GlobalGAP family of standards.
Wow. And I was, Kristian, I was showing off to you in our green room. That's 3-4 years ago. I was very blessed to have traveled through a lot of Africa promoting fresh produce. And I went through 18 different countries and visited and filmed on 50 different farms. And every farm, what did they have at the start of the driveway? Whether it was a tarmac driveway or a pothole driveway, they had a sign saying GlobalGAP. So this was 3-4 years ago. So the fact that you're in 130 plus countries is very, very impressive. And for those Kristian who are dialed in, who don't perhaps understand that the food sector as well as you and I, why do we need GlobalGAP? Why do we need this type of insurance scheme on farm? Why do we need GlobalGAP?
Well, first of all, in the fresh produce industry, where we are basically have the biggest share, products come from everywhere, right? And consumers are in different countries and have these specific expectations. And a buyer here, like a retailer or a trader, they have not all the means to go for all these seasonal products and define exactly how farming should be done. So the idea was we bring the farmers on board, we sit them together on the table with the traders, with the retailers, and bring them on harmonizing and agreeing what it means to have a safe product, to have good and responsible farming practices, environmentally, socially. So it's basically a global standardization in the private sector, because governments actually failed The origin came from when the BSE crisis was there, right? The mad cow disease. And the retailers said, hey, we need to have a positive response for the fresh produce sector. What can we do to influence our farmers and get them on board to actually use responsibly the pesticides or the crop protection products, to use responsibly their work with their workers in a way that they have a safe environment, etc.
Excellent. And that's one thing that I found when I was traveling through Africa, when I quizzed the farmers and some of the other individuals that we were meeting as to what was the benefit, the advantage of being aligned to GlobalGAP. That's what they said. It gave them food security. It gave them security knowing that the produce that they were selling to an international market would be of that GlobalGAP standard, and it therefore would be bought by the customer, and then ultimately bought by the consumer. So Kristian, is GlobalGAP, is there just one scheme globally for fresh produce, or there are a myriad of schemes creating a little bit of confusion, or is it just GlobalGAP?
Well, we have basically what we call the Integrated Farm Assurance Standard family. This is for fresh fruit and vegetable. That covers all the production from a carrot, from a bean, or even, let's say, a palm tree. And then on the other hand, we have livestock, we have aquaculture and flower and floral products. So it's the whole range of being farmed products. So we wouldn't do live catch of fish. We wouldn't do live collection. The bees do the honey for themselves. We don't certify them, right? So in that area, we are just doing what is controlled farming. So where human beings have a basic role to play, but in the whole range. That's the content. And here we basically have a basic global reference standard, which is of course translated then in 20, 30 different languages. And that is maybe where you may refer to is we link it often in the country to the national legislation and customs, not only to the language, but also like national interpretation, so that people understand it and see the value of it directly.
Excellent. And then, so coming to nuts and bolts, let me give you a direct example. And I love these sort of cases, Kristian. We've got two young entrepreneurs who are British, who've worked in fresh produce overseas. They want to set up a business in Senegal to grow the likes of spring onions and chilies, and they want to engage with GlobalGAP because they know they need to get that accreditation, and they're just getting their funding sorted out. They're just sourcing the land. For them to engage with GlobalGAP, I know it will be there'll be a lot of information, but in a nutshell, what will they have to do to be accredited to GlobalGAP standards, please?
Well, we do have, for our current standard, we have a website where you can really define what's your products you grow and what's your country you're in, and then you can basically download the particular documents. That's a very detailed questionnaire, the checklist, right? And often you have trainers around nearby, but the key thing then is to connect to an auditing company, a CB we call it, certification body. They will be the audits. They will also give you more hints in the country. They speak your language, etc. Yeah, but one thing we need to make really clear, it's necessary often to have a GlobalGAP certificate for the international trade to the Europe or to North America or in some places, but it's not sufficient. Yeah, so you make the difference. There is legal requirement. It's quality, it's all the logistics. So GlobalGAP alone doesn't bring you there, but it is one of the necessary components.
Excellent. And I'm guessing for the likes of that example, with the relationship they would create with yourself, the GlobalGAP and the auditors, they can then sort of figuratively hold your hand and find out more about the other accreditations that they would need. So you can help them with the process. You can help them come directly to market. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that very often we are actually engaged with projects, with funding projects. Like in Africa, there's USAID from the US or other GIZ and other projects where they do training, and they have national training organizations, and we train the trainers. So often there are local trainers, or we had a lot of farm assurers, the consultants that have training from us, so they get more up-to-date information. We would not necessarily from the head office in Cologne or for other local people directly do the training. But we have in many countries local people. You find them on our website, and they would direct you to those resources.
Yeah, and I'm guessing, Kristian, that with this drive towards sustainability, carbon neutrality is the next one coming along. Regenerative agriculture, we're seeing a big uptick in the UK and America. You must be very busy. You must be seeing a number of positive demands on yourself and your colleagues to assist these businesses find this new way, especially towards sustainability.
It's a perfect time in a way for organizations like ourselves, I must say. On the other hand, we work on behalf of the industry. We are a member-based organization where we have a community we serve to. That's our resonate, right? So we have an advisory board that's elected in a democratic way. That's a sounding board. So we do this to help the industry from a farmer and a retailer and the whole supply chain in between. We all serve the consumer. So in that sense, yes, there's a lot of demand. We have a great network, a global network, more than 160 auditing or certification bodies. They operate globally. The footprint is there. So we can basically plug and play. So once we have content, we can bring it to these places, and we have almost like the service outlet in the country.
Yeah, and I love that word, community, and I love this word that we majored on last year, Kristian, being collaboration. I suppose where if a farmer, wherever they are based, become a member of GlobalGAP, they're part of that community. They're part of the collaboration that you've created, so that ideas, issues, problems, solutions can all be solved within that community.
Yeah, we have two layers, two levels. One is you are participating in the system. So you are a registered certified producer. Then, of course, you are part of this service package and a user of the system. But we also have what we call real members. Members are even active participants, retailers, traders, also farming communities, groups of farms. They join for proactively contribute to the standards. So it's an extra voluntary association type of approach. They are the drivers. They are the ones that have the mandate to, in the community, to make then the consensus with our decision and governance structure, what the standard should look like.
Excellent. So the business, GlobalGAP, you're constantly changing, moving, shaping for the future, for the needs of the farmers, for the needs of the end consumer?
Yes, but that is a fine balance. I mean, being myself a farmer's son, and I know that, of course, it's risky to change in farming because you only have how Buffett say, 40 chances in life to get it right, 40 harvests of a yearly way. So 1/40 is a lot, right? If you mess it up. So you be cautious. But we look forward. Our continuous improvement is going with public consultation. We'll bring in new things on environment. Now we are launching a biodiversity add-on because it's so important. We already have water to roll out. So these are, and climate is on the horizon. These are the developed, and then we do a new release. And this new release is now the 6th release. Version 6 will be published on the 26th of April this year. We've been working on this for 3 years now, intensively, with thousands of days of individual contribution from the industry and working groups and consultations. And that will now, we are in the translation process to make all the documents ready to publish it on the 26th of April.
Okay. Wow,
then that will be like a new way of thinking into this good agricultural practice certification.
Excellent. Well, we're very excited to hear about that rollout in late April. That's going to be very interesting to hear. Kristian, we did a broadcast late last year on investment into farming and fresh produce, and we were live with a great chap from South Africa, and he made a really pertinent point that in the last recession, a number of the funds, especially US funds, they came rolling towards agricultural businesses on a global basis because they saw it as a safe haven. Today, with this perception that there's a COVID a pandemic recession that's either here or coming here. The same thing is happening again, that these funds are looking to come into agriculture, but also fresh produce, and interestingly enough, also into ag tech, because they can see the excitement of that. Are you being contacted by these funds, or have you got advice for these funds or individuals or companies that want to invest in agriculture, that want to invest into fresh food, as to how they should do it correctly? Because we are in a sort of a zeitgeist at the moment with this attraction towards fresh food, because we all want to eat better so that we're healthier against this pandemic and, God forbid, any future pandemic. What's your advice to people looking to come into the sectors as investors, as to what they need to do with your learnings from GlobalGAP, please?
Well, I think, yes, we've been approached, and we are actually being recently approached again by the World Bank to develop in their investment process a standard.
Wow.
In the area of livestock. So yeah, I think at the moment a farm is being certified to our standard, and you can even develop individual add-ons requirements you want in a private add-on to make sure there are particular things we don't cover. We would do that in a plug and play way. If you do that, then you have the one thing, you have a better market access, which then means you have a more long-term profitability, because you wouldn't be rejected. There's less risk on the food safety side that you may fail. There's less risk that you have some environmental very bad practices that would challenge your investment and your money you put into these industries. But also technology. Technology will be needed. If we're going to scale up, we don't have enough human auditors to go on every farm to actually control, and that's too much policing. We need to empower farmers with data, and data isn't handwriting on a piece of paper. It's basically digitalization of agriculture, and here technology really helps. Yep. And then with algorithms, we can replace more and more some of the audits or pieces of the audit with validated data, and then algorithms that give us, not only us as the controlling organization, but also the investors, but also the producers themselves, good guidance in where they steer in terms of metrics, water use, energy use, etc.
Excellent. Kristian, well done, because I know that we've got a number of international software businesses who work predominantly in fresh produce dialed into this broadcast. With you as the MD of GlobalGAP, what would your advice be to them as to how they should be tailoring their product, their offering, to be able to bolt in GlobalGAP, to be able to, as you say, automate the auditing side? What would your advice be to those software companies, please?
Very simple. First of all, they need to really meet the needs of the farmer to do a better management, right? To be managing the farmer resources much more efficiently. As a byproduct, and that is sort of the cream on it, is to offer a link, an API, an automated programming interface, to our what we call impact-driven approach backlog. So we would then allow this data to be shared with us, and we give back aggregated benchmark data only for the farmer that can be displayed with that software again, so that steers them even in the peer to others, right? So we're building this up now with the version 6. We're already piloting this in floriculture. So that is anyway part of the area where we have much more progress right now. Environment is more important. So yes, I go for the farmer and the benefit, but then link it for data exchange with our direct link. We don't want to be on the farm with the front end. So that's the opportunity to be really the service provider for the farming community.
That's, Kristian, well done. That's amazing. And I say that, and I'm not being jingoistic, because I've met so many businesses over the last 3-4 years who are just concerned that the farmer has got so many streams of data coming in to them that they find it very difficult to comprehend. So I think you're actually one of the first people that I've interviewed who's offered that API element to yourselves for your technology to be built into other people's technology, so it is seamless for the farmer. Do you think that's achievable? So do you think when let's throw it out 4 or 5 years down the line, and we have a farmer, whether they be in Senegal, whether they be in Germany, whether they be in South America, whether they be in South Africa, do you think it will be achievable for them to be able to run GlobalGAP on an efficient basis off a handheld device where it's low touch, but is incredibly powerful, and it's constantly learning through the algorithms that have been set up? Do you think that's achievable, or is that a bit of a wild goal?
I think it's already reality in some places. You have these what we call gentleman farmers sitting somewhere in a cafe and have this sort of remote farming. It's a bit of a gadget, yes, but yes, it is. The youth, the young farmers. I've seen and interviewed in our own podcast series, African farmers, young farmers, women, young men. They want technology. Farming isn't that ugly anymore. It's now with technology a place to go. It's for the future, and they want this and they strive for it. And that link is there. So I do see this coming, and it's purely because also of human resource and also less human touch with product. There will be more technology.
Yeah,
and it's going to come, yes.
And do you think it's an area that funds should look to explore, especially on the ag tech element, that it will be beneficial for them to invest in ag tech companies because of the good that it's going to do, but also the financial upside for them as primary funders? Do you think that would work for them?
Absolutely. I mean, all ag technology, be it in the traditional technicians, right? The technical equipment in farming to take out hand labor from some of the places, that's important. So simple technology, but also the high tech becomes much more, achievable for many, and using community use, etc. I think for us, it's advisable to do so. It will help in particular as where our hope is that it will generate for farms an additional stream of income with data.
Please explain a little bit more.
Well, I think there is an opportunity that farmers basically, like with carbon credits, that's the simplest way of thinking, right? They're impact investors. They think we need to improve. We have similar impact investors for animal welfare. The more animals are treated well, that is a benefit for those social impact investors. They would pay for every animal that it doesn't suffer.
Yep.
So that is part of opportunities, so that the new gold, the data is being in the hands of farmers. There's an interest of society to do things better, for a more resilient farming, for regenerative farming, and that needs to be proven. GlobalGAP is the standard on the way. I think 80% for responsible farming. We just need a few more points that are coming now to get it to a full, complete regenerative type of approach. Yeah. But that is what governments, for civil society, but also consumers in different places need and want. Yeah. And there will be a differentiation in the market, and then it will benefit, be it in the product pricing, which not always is the best place. I can explain if you want, but I think there is also a parallel stream of the data itself, of the value. Because anyway do it, because the main thing is, if you have a perishable product, and by seasonality, the strawberry is really so many mature and ripe strawberries, and they're all flushing the market, and you cannot just keep a certain level of price, because then you have to throw them away. People wouldn't buy them. So there is a elasticity for purchase for this. So that's what people would do. And so we would want to make sure that the market is there, all strawberries are eaten, but in the same time, the farmer isn't undercutting the price, so is still getting an income by different sources.
Excellent. Kristian, thank you. And just coming back a little bit on the technology side, because I just want to segue it into attracting people into the sector. When I was in Ghana, I was very blessed to go to one of the first fair trade banana growers in the whole of Africa. And yes, they had a GlobalGAP sign at the front of the drive. Well, one thing that we were amazed at was that the workers there, they lived in relatively poor housing. They were all very well looked after and accommodated, but you wouldn't call the housing anything special. They were all paid digitally on their phones. And it's a bit like the telephone system in Africa. They've never had landlines. They've gone straight to mobile devices. And so all of these 500 plus workers were all being paid digitally through 3 different bank sources in Ghana on their phones. So those of a younger generation are really interested in the tech. There's so much that could be had with the likes of GlobalGAP, with the likes of this sector, with these software businesses that are being created. And also you're doing good because of the fresh food connotation that Kristian and I've talked about earlier about the whole sustainability element of it. Kristian, do you think this is an exciting sector, fresh food, fresh produce? Do you think this is an exciting sector for the younger generations to come into, please?
Yes, it's such a fast sector as well, right? So it's so international. We're recruiting. Last year, we recruited 30 international staff. We're again doing it this year. So whoever is interested, I can make that call here. We will post over the year 30 new positions and roles in all different layers and levels that interest in sustainability and in produce or livestock. But I think the area really is so exciting because of you are helping, you do something good. You have your elevator talk that you do something that helps the future generations. It's healthy food. It's responsibly grown food. It's transparent food. It's what people want now and which I associate with.
Yeah. So if people want to find out more about GlobalGAP and potentially to get a job, what must they do? They must go to the GlobalGAP website, look at you on LinkedIn, look at you on Facebook, look at your social media, and just keep watching and engaging with you and your colleagues.
Yeah, we'll do it on LinkedIn. We'll do it on different portals. We'll do it on our website. We have a job opportunity site there, and then apply through the system. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. And you yourself, we always get asked this question by the number of students that dial in from the UK and internationally. Although you're a farmer's son, you're very charismatic. You could have done anything, Kristian. You could have gone into politics. You could have run the German national football team. But you're aligned with GlobalGAP. What was your background from being a farmer's son to coming into GlobalGAP, please?
Well, I always already wanted to do some change in the world. I don't know why. My brother took over the farm and said, okay, I wouldn't have been sitting on the tractor all day. I mean, I would have had, I like to drive a tractor, but I think I like to also engage more with the people. But now with social media, you can actually sit on the tractor and still interact. So I don't want to, and they go automatically with technology. So I think that wasn't at that time. To not discredit any of these roles because I think it's so important to do this. But no, I wanted to change things. And the first idea was maybe I work for United Nations, UN, FAO, or then the World Bank. And I piloted and trialed this, but even the World Bank. But when I found out that the private business, the industry, the big retailers had the biggest input of opportunity to change. I was on the BSE crisis, now in fresh produce, and found that bringing enthusiasm into it, get people's dreams there, they want to do these things. I think to change the industry with the private sector, with global players that are responsibly sourcing has a huge impact.
Totally. And to be involved with you and your colleagues on a career basis, or any of the associated businesses with yourself would be a great journey to be had.
Yeah, I think I tell my people, what is it what you want to be accredited for in the end? I say, well, if they are thankful that with joining an organization, what we've built, they could leverage their skills and their talent to make a difference in the world because of this organization, more than if they would just try themselves to do it. Already as a consumer, you have a big impact. But yes, if you leverage it and you build, for example, now a biodiversity standard, and that will be rolled out to thousands of farms, you can already make such a difference everywhere around the world in a sort of also collaborative way. This is not something we should have put top down. This is all being developed with understanding, with common sense, with science-based and consensus.
Yeah. And Kristian, with the the generation that are going through college, universities in UK, Europe, and overseas that might be doing specific agricultural courses, they'll be taught on these new elements of carbon neutrality and sustainability. I'm sure you're seeing the same thing, that we're meeting a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s who actually want to step away from the career that they're doing currently and come into the fresh food sector, but they're struggling a little bit to find ways to be educated on the likes of sustainability. Because they can't find anything specific about sustainability within fresh produce, within fresh food. What would your advice be to those people who are looking to retrain, to come into the sector, as to how they can very quickly learn more about this sector, especially on the likes of carbon neutrality, sustainability, regenerative agriculture? What would your advice be to them? How can they learn, please?
Well, we are all a bit in the early stages. Some of the larger corporations, they have started and do their own internal training. So yeah, we need to stay tuned. Once we have the first products ready, I think, continue to visit our website where we're building and there are learning courses. I think that it is really an early stage. Even if I would look, I need to transfer some of the knowledge. But the more we understand this, the more we get questions as well. We are building up an academy here and to learn more about it. And that is going to come in the course of the year as well.
Wow.
And teaming up with trainers that would do that. But I don't think we are the only ones. We will also rely on teaching universities. It is difficult. When on the other hand, you mentioned technology. A friend of mine, they started with us together on a series when we needed to fast educate people to do agriculture. Like when students needed to go to replace harvest workers that weren't able to come and travel because of COVID to asparagus and strawberry harvest. We designed short YouTube videos that could be looked and watched on your smartphone, right? So you could actually learn quickly what is safety, what is sustainability on the farm for these works. And that's been expanded now much more. So another way of technology for these sort of very short practical pieces to get the grip. But I think the university courses, they're starting to pick this up. It's a good point. I will also use this as an input further to whenever we have our organizations working with us, is that we build more a resource with our organization. And you can do that as well. Let's look at collecting in the notes and so on some resources.
Yeah, that's what I'm learning from yourself about GlobalGAP. You might not have the answer today, but you might have later in the year. So again, another reason why we should be aligned to you and watching your website and watching, engaging with your social media feeds.
Yeah, we will do. And we have a social media active groups. We're quite active in LinkedIn, we have our Facebook, and we have a YouTube channel. A lot is in YouTube channel. But yeah, the latest ones, the more questions we get, the more interactions like logic we get, we will listen. We have our social media managers, and they are very active and proactive and definitely engaged.
Excellent. We just had a question in. Could Kristian give a little bit more information on the launch of the new product at the end of April? Kristian, are you able to do that? Are you able to tease us a little bit more, please?
Yeah, it is much more risk-based. So we looked at simplification. Our standard had like 250 questions, but this is like this overall. What we will do is we will be smarter in a way how we generate the standard. So you can be much more targeted to what is your specific need in what you produce in which country. We'll be much smarter in terms of the approaches of sustainability. We have these modules, we have add-ons, like if you are in a water-stressed area, then there is a sort of adjusted water add-on. If you're in an area now with biodiversity, that could actually bring you closer to that level. So the whole area is more flexible, more risk-based, and we look. It's really a big overhaul to make sure that the farmers really get what they need and understand it, and the outcome, the metrics, is being more in the focus. Yeah, less prescriptive, more outcome-based. So because we see the farmer in the center, right? The farmer's heart needs to be convinced. I've met large producer groups. They have said, well, great that we have this standard because my workers now, they understand it. There's much more confidence within the group of the producers and of the workers because they have rules, they have a way to understand why they are doing things in a certain way.
Fantastic. Kristian, I was mentioning about my entrepreneurs who are looking to set up a Senegal. They've asked a question on WhatsApp. Where does Kristian see GlobalGAP in 5 to 6 years, and why should we be aligned to GlobalGAP? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, well, excuse me. I think we want to really continue to belong to this sort of best of first network that translates like these new global trends into a mainstream food sector. We are not a niche player. We are for the mainstream food sector. And hereby contributing to this necessary transformation in the whole industry. That is our mandate. Mainstreaming a consumer label. We haven't talked about it today yet, but you see in the back this GGN label, a consumer label, to bring responsible farming in a transparent way to consumers. Make it safe for producers, for consumers to do a shopping, to make it simpler to choose responsibly produced products that respond to water, social, animal welfare, climate, biodiversity. So we want to do this in a broad thing, and then we will look much more in the way of digitalization of metrics, of data, of impact. Yeah. So when you're a producer, you will be enabled, and that's one of our vision, you will be enabled to demonstrate that you produce in a way to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. You are enabled to demonstrate and prove that you work and deliver for several generations to come. So that is, I think, the mandate. If you're a buyer, this is what your competitors are likely to do, right? They will also rely on the standard, and you may not want to miss out. And you might want to make sure that this is, and that's for all the others, that this is a mainstream harmonized approach. We need to even collaborate more. So that is the biggest challenge, but I see it's coming maybe through COVID even more. Yeah. That even before maybe competing systems, maybe different approaches, they see the value, particularly in data exchange, to collaborate more. I see this more like the roaming of telephone companies. You should have one phone and be able to call all other phone networks and not have a phone of every network.
Kristian, excellent example. Excellent example, the telephone roaming. So you're convinced that the future is bright for the sector, and especially if we all are aligned to GlobalGAP.
We are aligned to the same mission to make this a more responsible farming. We do recognize and benchmark other standards. We don't want to be this sort of global monolith. We're decentralized. We provide a network of like-minded groups, of like-minded people. We benchmark 15 national other standards because I think locally you are strong. Agriculture is local. And if you get the right support under your even national support and your national framework, you just be able to interface and connect to the global community. We don't want to be just this one, excuse me to put that, it's not this just one Microsoft solution, right? There are all the different ones that interact.
Kristian, thank you. I've learned so much today. Why we were really keen to get you on is to be the face of GlobalGAP and to just put a bit more flesh on the bones, as we say in the UK. We've learned so much from you today. I would state to everyone that to follow Kristian and his colleagues on LinkedIn, on their website, on their other social media feeds, because they're very, very positive and very active on that side. And Kristian, we look forward to the new release information coming through at the end of April. And just to wrap up, I have to ask you this question. See if I can compromise you, Kristian. What's your favourite fresh produce, please?
Oh, my favorite fresh produce is, I think, the mango.
Is it? And why? Why the mango?
You can eat it fresh and add juice, and it also contributes to so many communities from developed but also developing communities. So it has something, but it's stressful for some on the production. So we have to look at it, but it is an opportunity for small and large farmers. So it's in both sides, right? It's a brilliant fruit, and it's traveling around the world, and it tells a story.
Excellent. And I believe that you're shortly off to Africa. Are you to investigate, see some of your members? Will you be looking for mango on your travels into Africa?
Most likely, wherever I can have a good mango, it's perfect. Although, of course, I every day eat bananas, and I was brought up with potatoes. So in that sense, I don't want to compromise on all the others.
Excellent. Are other fresh producers available? We'll go for mango first, then potatoes second. Kristian, thank you very much. We'd love to have you back on at some point later in the year, just so that we can keep this dialogue going to get more people attracted into fresh produce, and also the likes of the new entrepreneurial people coming into the sector, for them to find out about GlobalGAP and why they should be aligned to. Kristian, thank you very much, and thank you very much to your colleagues for organising this conversation today.
Max, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was really a pleasure. And yes, we're looking for every interaction in the future, because like-minded people, we need to stick together and be optimistic.
Excellent. Well done, Kristian. Thank you very much.